Welcome back to the Bill and Doug Show. Ohio State versus Illinois picks and preview here today. Kind of a big game breakdown. We'll look at the Illini and the Buckeyes on both sides of the ball. Doug Lesmerises, Bill Landis, national picks on Friday. Ohio State picks on this show. Bill Landis, 14-point spread. Over under is 49.5. 14 points. Does that seem right to you for Ohio State to be favored by 2 touchdowns on the road at noon on Saturday?
It's actually a little less than I would have guessed, and I think it opened slightly higher than that. That's what it was on Thursday morning. Like the Washington game was a single digit spread, but that kind of made sense to me just based off the environment and like it being Julian Sayin's first road game. Passing that test and now going to play what's probably a better team, but and not nearly the same kind of environment. And obviously, the last time Indiana played a team that was in the top 10, it got its doors blown off. I thought this would be more like a 3 touchdown kind of spread than what it is right now.
The hard thing about this is, and I do want one thing that I do think matters here is that this is Illinois' 7th straight game. They haven't had a bye yet. Illinois is 5-1. Should Illinois be 2-4? They kind of got outplayed at Duke, but Duke turned the ball over a ton. And then credit to Illinois, they pulled away in the second half, but they were hanging on for dear life early in that. They won 45-19, but that's not a 45-19 game. And Kurt Cignetti, the Indiana coach, after Indiana destroyed Illinois for Illinois' only loss, said, like, did you watch the Duke game? We knew we'd be able to get pressure on them because Illinois' offensive line was terrible against Duke. So they could have lost Duke. They lost 63-10 to Indiana. They beat USC 34-32 in a game that they controlled the whole time, then completely fell apart at the end. USC drove for the go-ahead score, and then Luke Altmire led Illinois down to kick a game-winning field goal in the last play of the game. They certainly could have lost that. And then Purdue last week, that was a weird line there that Purdue was only like a 10-point underdog to Illinois. That was 43-27, but there's a success rate graphic from Parker Fleming that we look at every week. And like play to play, who was better at doing their job? Purdue was much better than Illinois in that game, right?
Yeah, Purdue had the better success rate, and I was just watching that game. Something happened that I wanted to make note of, and I can't remember. I think it was like a third quarter, still a fairly close game, and I think Purdue had like a wonky turnover or something like that.
Purdue fumbled a punt.
Yeah,
it was like super crucial and set up Illinois on like at the 10-yard line.
Yes, that's what it was. The other thing about the USC game, so I watched the USC game in its entirety, and I kind of just watched the highlights of the Purdue game. Illinois also fumbled twice going into the end zone in that game.
Yes, they did.
That could have been a little different there too. But should they be 2-4? I think they've probably played like a team that should be 2-4. Yeah, I mean, you want to give them credit for pulling out some of the games they did, and I think it starts with Luke Altmire. But yeah, their play on the field has not looked like a team that's 5-1.
Yeah, it's really hard. And again, like it's one of those, like Duke turned the ball over, so that helped Illinois. But then Illinois turned the ball over, but still managed to win against USC. And then Purdue literally had a play. Purdue had 2 defensive backs run into each other and conk their heads together like coconuts, and it turned into like an Illinois 60-yard. There was a play where, like early in that game, Illinois, like Purdue guys just made a catch in the middle of the field and just going down to the ground, and an Illinois defender at the last second punched the ball out 4 inches before the Purdue guy was down. So it was kind of like it was a good defensive play, but it was kind of like, man, that was a weird turnover. And then the next play, they threw a 65-yard touchdown pass because literally 2 Purdue defensive backs ran into each other and left the guy wide open. Purdue made a ton of mistakes, but then also Illinois made a ton of mistakes. And like Purdue was the worst team in the Big Ten last year, played Illinois basically to a draw a year ago. And then this year kind of played Illinois to a draw again, when Illinois was a team coming into the year that I picked to make the playoff, and Purdue is completely rebuilding, and they looked equal last week.
Yeah, it was weird because I actually thought the USC game, if you take some of the wonkiness out of it, was like a fairly well played game for Illinois, especially some of the things that had really like kind of hindered it against Duke and Indiana,
Sure.
which is to say like offensive line play.
Yes.
was not as much of an issue against USC, but then like they get to the Purdue game and all of a sudden like Purdue's getting pressure on them again. So it's like, I don't know, was like the USC game like an outlier for a team that is like they're not bad, but and they're like banged up too, which I think is part of it. But I guess like suffice to say, like they've not looked, I think, really at all like the team that we kind of thought they would be coming into the season, which is like a potential playoff contender. But I do think they're tricky. And they're at home, and then there's like the Brett Bielema factor, and he usually coaches his team pretty well in games like this. So there's still a lot to get into.
This is so interesting, and there's like a defensive point I want to make about this, but Illinois is 5-1, but kind of hanging on for dear life in a lot of ways. And Ohio State is 5-0, and we've talked about this a lot from a scoreboard watching standpoint. Maybe not as dominant as people think. Illinois is worse than a 5-1 team that you would glance at, I think, right? Like if you glance at Illinois, I actually think they're worse than that. If you glance at Ohio State, I actually think they're better than that. Right. That they're kind of like Ohio State's playing a certain kind of way, and it sort of makes you get lulled to sleep and not realize how good they are. And Illinois is playing a certain kind of way that makes you think like, I don't know about these guys. And they're like, oh my God, I can't believe they're 5-1. It's practically a miracle. You did Illinois offense versus Ohio State defense, correct?
Yes.
Okay. It's always one of those. It's like, well, because I did Ohio State offense versus Illinois defense, so I hope we didn't get our wires crossed. Just so real quick, Ohio State's won 9 straight. Last win for Illinois was 2007 when Juice Williams came into Ohio Stadium and had that huge upset. Like knocked Ohio State out of the national title picture for the moment, and then they got back into it. Ohio State played for the national title. That was the last time Illinois won. They haven't played at all since 2017 because just the way the breakdown of like East-West and the way things used to be, and then they reshuffled it, and they were supposed to play in 2020. It got canceled by COVID. This is pretty weird. So 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. That's 7 years of not playing each other. That is weird.
It is weird, and Ohio State hasn't been in Champaign since 2015. Very strange. There's some other stuff here that I came across and like just digging up. Well, I guess how much I'm here we're talking about like records and trends and stuff. Illinois has played the number 1 team at home 10 times. It's 2-8. It is 2-8. Beat Michigan State in 1956 and beat Ohio State in 1950. Most of those games are against Ohio State. Illinois is 1-5 at home against Ohio State when the Buckeyes are the number 1 team in the country. That is came across that. Jonathan Kuhn won on Twitter was who looked that up. The last 2 times Ohio State played Illinois as the number 1 team were 2006 and 2007, and Ohio State did not cover either time. One of them was an outright loss, and the other game they didn't cover.
I'm trying to remember. I think 2006 was like the goofiest game that dominant Ohio State team played all year, 17-10.
Yeah,
like a weird, like so. It can be weird over there. It can be weird over there. For sure. Yes. And Brett Bielema's goal, and let's talk about Bielema now.
Sure.
Bielema's goal is to make it weird. And one of the things that 1,000% is going to happen in this game is that Ohio State's going to substitute offensively, and then Illinois is going to substitute defensively by having guys crawl off the field.
Yes.
And it is going to drive Ohio State fans crazy. I would pick at least 1 delay of game penalty or forced timeout for Ohio State because of it. Ryan Day, you're going to see Ryan Day yelling either just about, not necessarily even at Brett Bielema, but at the refs, because is he pushing it too far with the rules? Because you're supposed to let the defense substitute if the offense substitutes, but Bielema will push it to the edge. He wants to slow the game down. He wants to throw off offenses any way he can. He coaches to the edge of the whistle. Right? Like guys play to that. Bielema coaches to that. And there will be at least one moment on Saturday where Ohio State fans are ready to punch their TVs because of it.
I'm glad you mentioned it because I have it in my notes too. I have a list of like 3 things outside of like offense and defense to like watch out for in this game. And one of them is Illinois substituting slow to throw off Ohio State's rhythm. Another is like, and maybe we can talk more in depth about it, but Illinois is like pretty good on special teams. And trick plays. Last year against Nebraska, Illinois threw a touchdown to an offensive lineman in like a pretty close game. And then this year against USC, I believe on its opening drive against USC, it tried to throw a halfback pass, but like it wasn't open. And then 2 plays later, threw a double reverse pass to Luke Altmire to score a touchdown. So like they're gonna come to the table with some trick plays.
Philly special, wasn't it? Philly special?
No, it wasn't. See, I get mad about this. It wasn't. Not every pass.
Didn't the announcer say it was Philly special?
Joel Klatt called it Philly special, but it was not.
Joel.
Yes.
Let's start a war about this. What are we doing? This is
not
your
every
battle.
Trick play pass, not every trick play pass to a quarterback is Philly special.
This is a scandal. Joel Klatt took Philly special's name in vain. We can't live with this.
Yeah. Next time I see him, I'll tell him he was wrong.
Philly Billy doesn't like when you misuse Philly special, Joel Klatt.
That's right.
So watch it. Or Landis is coming for you, and he's going to have a little French vanilla right behind him. Bring in a little bit of this. That'd be a good bet. We need to get in more wars, don't you think?
Yeah, it's been yeah.
Let's call people out.
Did you see, by the way? I was watching Brett Bielema's press conference, and he said that he talked to this Illinois team in the offseason about when he was the coach at Wisconsin in 2010, and they beat number 1 Ohio State.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. I think there's 3 things at play there. One is Camp Randall practically shook itself down to its foundation that night. Yes. So you've got to work the huge home field advantage. Number 2 is you said Illinois is good at special teams. Wisconsin ran the opening kickback for a touchdown in that game. And 3 is, right, Wisconsin had J.J. Watt.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah.
So all you got to do is do that. Run the opening kickoff back because you're good at special teams. Have one of the greatest home field advantages in college football, and have an all-time have an NFL Hall of Famer playing defense for you and going crazy. Yeah, that was the year J.J. Watt had 7 sacks. He was a junior. Yeah. So anyway, maybe Gabe Akers can be that. So that's we're always looking for these formulas. You go back and how to do it. It's like special teams, home field advantage, and a dominant defensive player. It's not a bad plan.
It's a pretty good recipe. And I'm just going to say it. Luke Altmire, better than Scott Tolzien.
Yeah. Wow. So you're going after Joel Klatt and the Tolzien family so far. Wow. Throwing it down. I have a question for you. I want to start with your side of the ball, but I want to start with Illinois offense, Ohio State defense with this question. If Luke Altmyer was Penn State's quarterback, would Penn State be undefeated?
Yes.
Okay. That's what I think too. But so that is what Luke Altmyer is doing. And honestly, if Drew Aller was Illinois' quarterback, Illinois might be 2-4, not joking.
Luke Altmyer, I believe it's since 2023, since he took over the starter at Illinois, has 6 game-winning drives with that in the last minute of the fourth quarter, which is the most of any quarterback in that time span.
Illinois looked like it was going to lose to
some of them was going to Purdue, but
that counts.
Yeah.
Illinois looked like it was going to lose to Duke by 30, and Luke Altmyer, Brett Bielema with weird substitutions, and Luke Altmyer by making throws that he had no right to make, refused to let Illinois lose that game. And then after the defense gave it up for Illinois against USC, Luke Altmyer let him down the field, and they kicked a game-winning field goal in the last play of the game. So those are at least 2 losses that, honestly, for real, I think they might be 3-3 if you traded Drew Aller and Luke Altmyer. So that's just to tell Ohio State fans that's what we're talking about, because there's such a Luke Altmyer, Drew Aller, Cade Klubnik to me were the 3 third-year starting quarterbacks at their actual schools, because Luke Altmyer is a transfer, but he's been the starting quarterback at Illinois for now the 3rd season, that I thought gave those teams an edge coming into this year. And Clemson and Penn State, it hasn't been true. Klubnik and Aller have not played that way. And you've seen the results for Clemson and Penn State. Altmyer has. I think Altmyer has lived up to hey, 3rd-year starting quarterback, this is what it's supposed to look like. All of Illinois' problems are because of other things that are falling apart around him. But how good do you think Luke Altmyer is?
Yeah, he's really good, and he's taken a step forward. The thing that's most interesting to me, I think, about him in this matchup is that look at the other Power 4 teams that Ohio State has played and their quarterbacks. Arch Manning, Damon Williams Jr., Drake Lindsey came into this season with a combined 4 starts in their careers. Saturday will be Luke Altmyer's 30th start.
Okay.
And like Ryan Day said on Wednesday night that matters. He said, as a quote from Ryan Day, those experienced guys who have seen it before, there's a lot that they can recall. And then he said later that he's won some big games before. So like, I think they respect his experience. I think they respect the idea that there's probably not much they can do to him that he hasn't seen before. And I think that presents an interesting situation for Ohio State's defense, where like the disguises have been excellent. Clearly, all of these young quarterbacks that Ohio State has played have been confused by what they're seeing. And that's not to say they can't confuse Luke Altmyer, because I think they probably can and will, but I don't know that they can do it to the degree that they did those other young quarterbacks. So that'll be a pretty fun chess match, I think. It's not the chess match between the offensive coordinator and the defensive coordinator per se. It's like the chess match between defensive coordinator Matt Patricia and a really experienced quarterback who's just kind of seen it all. So I'm wondering, like, what, I don't know that Ohio State has been like saving things for this game necessarily, but with that in mind, I could see Ohio State trying to do some newer things in this game, some stuff maybe it hasn't done quite yet. Because I do think overall, especially with the way that Texas's offense has played since Ohio State played it, it's either this offense or like Washington's offense. That's like the best offense that Ohio State will have seen thus far.
Okay.
But when you factor in how well the quarterback is playing for Illinois, I think you can make the argument it's Illinois, because they also have like more balance at receiver and they have like a stable of running backs. Offensive line situation's not great. We can talk about that, but I just mentioned all that to say, like, this is, it's not an offensive juggernaut that Ohio State's about to face, but I do think it's an offense with a quarterback who is incredibly experienced, and not only experienced, but like experience in this system. He like 29 of his 30 starts are in this offensive system with this team. And he and the OC Illini, I think, like have a pretty good connection on what they want to do, and Luke Altmyer can like operate the offense. He can make just about every throw you would want a quarterback to make. He does throw a lot of RPOs. And a lot of those RPOs like in the middle of the field. If you look like just like percentages of where he throws the ball, the highest percentages are like short middle, intermediate middle. And that for me, like I recall a little bit of what we saw Caleb Downs do last year, especially like against Oregon in the Rose Bowl, where he's just like parked in the middle of the field. And Dylan Gabriel's like, well, I'd love to throw the ball over the middle of the field, but I can't because Caleb Downs is there. So that's a weapon for Ohio State clearly here. I think like what they do with Downs, how much you spy, because Luke Altmyer can run a little bit. Arvell Reese, I think, will be interesting. He's not the run threat of like DeMond Williams, but he's certainly more of a run threat than Ohio State saw last week against Minnesota, and probably more of a run threat than Arch Manning was in that first game. So there are some things for Ohio State to kind of just like be on its stuff. Like I think it is, if you're sloppy like in any way, or just like not really on point, I do think Luke Altmyer is a quarterback that can make you pay for it.
12 touchdowns, no picks this year for Luke Altmyer.
Yeah, he is. I looked this up. Of all, what is it? There are 6 FBS quarterbacks with at least 100 dropbacks and no interceptions, and he's one of them. And I think there's only 2 of those guys in the top 4.
Okay. So that's pretty good. Let's save the Illinois offensive line for last, because that way we can go through like the things that Illinois has a chance to do offensively. And then at the end, you could be like, but none of them will happen because Ohio State's going to destroy their offensive line. But anyway, let's pretend for 5 minutes. Let's start in the backfield. Aiden and Caden, like the Aiden and Caden show. I've always liked the Aiden and Caden show. Right. And then, but also they have Aiden Lawfrey actually is not doing as much this year. Khalil Valentine is part of it too, but like kind of 3 backs, right?
Yeah. Caden Fagan, Khalil Valentine, Aiden Lawfrey. Lawfrey has only played in 3 games this year. He did not play last week. I think he's dealing with like an ankle or anything. But Brett Bielema said they held him out as a bit of a precaution last week. They think he'll play this week, but they're not entirely sure if he's going to be 100% or like how much of an impact he can have. But it sounds like they do plan on using all 3 backs. Different styles. Caden Fagan is 6'3", 255 pounds. Like that is a big old. You've compared him to Derrick Henry. I don't even like. Yeah. He's bigger than Derrick Henry. I think he's not as good as Derrick Henry, but he's bigger than him. Valentine is like more of a traditional built running back. He's got more wiggle to him. I think can be pretty deadly in space after the catch if you let him get there. Lawfrey is like their best guy in terms of yards after contact, but he also has their fewest carries right now. So they want to run the ball. They actually, their rushing percentage is a little lower than I thought it would be. It's like 54%, which is about the same as Ohio State's.
Okay.
But like a lot of what they do offensively is predicated on running the ball because, like I said, they want to run a lot of run pass options and a lot of play action with Luke Altmyer. So, and to your point earlier, they'll want to shorten the game. They play slow anyway, but they'll want to shorten the game here. So, I'd imagine they're going to try to establish the run somewhat. They're also, we'll talk offensive line. They're probably better run blocking than they are pass protecting. But Illinois, I don't think has probably. I would assume anyway, they've not run the ball the way they want to. Less than 3 yards per carry against Duke, less than 3 yards per carry against Purdue, and less than 1 yard per carry against Indiana. Sacks factoring into a lot of those numbers.
Yeah, I don't. Like I almost think the run game should be a little bit better. Caden Fagan, as much as I like him, had 10 carries for 16 yards against Purdue last week.
He just needs, like, if he's not gonna, he can run over someone maybe, but he's not gonna run away from people. So like, he needs a nice hole to run through.
People made so it's the same guys they had last year in the backfield. They had a good year last year, as people know, right? A 10-win team. But they had like 4 running backs last year. They lost Josh McCray because he transferred to Georgia, and everybody said, "Oh baby, Josh McCray at Georgia." Josh McCray at Georgia has 21 carries for 50 yards. Josh McCray at Georgia.
21 for 50?
For 50.
Whoa.
5-0. So and so he was like, so they had 4 guys last year, 1 left, went to Georgia to become like Georgia's number 2 back, and he's having a terrible year. So I'm not even sure what that means, except that Georgia can cram it. So they do have like a three-headed thing in the backfield. I think they'll ride the hot hand a little bit if that happens to happen with somebody. So they have options there. They don't have anybody as good as Bo Jackson, but they have a couple options there. I don't know that they're a consistent run game, but I could see them here and there being. I think they're like a little bit of a threat there, but I also don't think they're gonna pound the ball against. There's a point I want to make. I don't think they're built to necessarily pound the ball against Ohio State all day.
No, I don't think so either. They ran it well against USC, but I just kind of felt like USC was getting out physical on both sides of the ball that entire game. They got kind of like an angry Illinois team, and Illinois pushed them around a little bit. But that has not shown up really in like any of Illinois' other games. Yeah.
So can I let me ask you if this is so in 2021 in Brett Bielema's first season, Illinois beat Penn State 20-18 in 9 overtimes.
Right.
And they just were lining up with 14 offensive linemen on the field. They ran the ball 67 times in that game. They threw it 21 times. They were 8 of 21, and they were doing like, I think they might have had like a 30-play touchdown drive or something. I would not be completely dumbfounded if Brett Bielema came out and like threw their whole offense away and ran single wing and tried to get 3.3 yards per carry, go for it on every 4th down, and try to have a 12-minute, 26-play drive in the first quarter. Like, I think you're just prepared for that because he's going to throw everything at it, and he knows mano a mano, they're not going to win. So he's got to get funky, and this team can't pass block, which we'll get to. So I'm just throwing that out there. I'm not predicting it, but I'm throwing it out
there. I don't know that I'd be. I do think this could be a game like Brett Bielema just throws like every idea he has against the wall, see if something sticks, and they can't shock the world. I mean, that plan you laid out would drastically negate the impact of like their 2 best offensive players, who are Luke Altmyer and Hank Beatty, the receiver, who we'll talk about. But in the name of shortening the game and not giving Ohio State the ball, and at the very least, like trying something that no one has tried against this Ohio State defense yet. Maybe I don't think I'd be terribly surprised by it. And Luke Altmyer, as we mentioned, like he's got 85 designed rushing yards. Like he can be a part of that if you wanted to do that. It would be similar to, was that 2019 when Ohio State played at Nebraska, and then like on Nebraska's like 3rd drive, it just started playing option football and like marched down the field, and then just didn't try it again. Like maybe Illinois has something like that up its sleeve for this game.
Yeah. Okay. So just be prepared. Hank Beatty, really good receiver. If they try to throw it like a normal offense, Who are they throwing it to?
Yeah, Beatty's the number one guy. The tight ends, like target-wise, have not been a huge factor. The top 5 guys in targets are all receivers, led by Hank Beatty. I think they have like a pretty nice receiver core. Beatty is the best. He's a slot guy. Colin Dixon's pretty good. Hudson Clement, transfer from West Virginia, is pretty good. Justin Bowick is like a big dude. He's 6'4". He's fourth in targets, but he actually has the most receiving touchdowns. He has 4 of them. But Beatty's the guy that I think you have to stop. And Ohio State played, I think, a pretty nice slot receiver against Texas with Parker Livingstone. He scored a touchdown against Ohio State late in that game. They played another pretty good one against Ohio. Chase something. His last name is escaping me. He scored a touchdown in that game.
Hendricks? Was it Hendricks?
Hendricks, yeah. He scored a touchdown in that game. So it'll be like a little bit of a spotlight, I think, for Lorenzo Styles Jr. dealing with Hank Beatty. I don't know. Ohio State played a bunch of man last week against Minnesota. It has primarily been a zone team. I would imagine we'll see them kind of go back to playing zone in this game, if anything, to like try to gunk up the middle of the field against some of those RPOs. But yeah, Beatty's good. He's really good after the catch. He's second in the Power 4 in yards after the catch. He's dangerous as a return man. He's got a punt return touchdown. He's got a rushing touchdown. He's got a couple of receiving touchdowns. He's thrown a touchdown pass. Like, there's a lot to like with him. He's a pretty solid player. I think he's a 4th or 5th year guy. He's been in the program for a while. I think he's probably playing the best of any receiver Ohio State's played so far this year. And we talked a lot about Denzel Boston, and he's a very good player, different kind of player. But if you look at just like body of work this season, Hank Beatty's been one of the better receivers in the country.
All right, before we get to the offensive line, what's this? You have a pace stat for Illinois offensively? How slow they play?
Yeah, they are 102nd in the country just in like pace of play, which is like seconds per play, and 109th in plays per game, 64.4.
Okay, and those are all things where like Ohio State's like literally at the bottom of things like that, right?
Yes, Ohio State is 136th in pace of play and 132nd in plays per game.
Do you think Illinois could come out and not snap the ball until there's 1 second on the play clock for the whole first half?
Yes.
Yeah. I think it's an under game. I think it's. I don't think Brett Bielema is going to coach it normally. I don't think he's going to coach it normally. I think they're gonna work the clock. I think they're going to have 3 running backs and no quarterback in the backfield on some play. I think they're going to run some single wing stuff. I think they might put 2 quarterbacks in the game. They're like, I just think he knows the deal. This is it for them, and he doesn't care if they win weird. He will do anything it takes because they're a little desperate, and he knows they're even not as good as their record shows. And then the other part of this is the number one thing that we thought about Illinois coming in was like they had their whole offensive line back, but even though they were back, they had to get better, and they're not better.
They're not. I think the left side's decent. Like J.C. Davis and Josh Geske, their left tackle and left guard, at least by PFF grade, have played well. The right side's been really bad. And they also have some potential health stuff at center. Like Josh Kreutz, their center, didn't play against Purdue. Yeah. Brett Bielema said he probably could have, but he knows that Josh Kreutz like wanted to play against Ohio State, so like they held him back in that game so he could play in this game. But like either way, like think about what Caden Curry has done as like an interior pass rusher on passing downs, and it's like who's he going to be up against? Like either a bad right guard or an injured starting center or the backup center. And it's like I don't love any of that about Illinois. And Arvell Reese, we've seen what he can do to interior offensive linemen. If Illinois is going to try to drop back and throw the ball a lot against Ohio State, I think you'll see what happened against Indiana when Luke Altmyer got sacked 7 times. And he's been sacked 19 times this year. It's the second most in the Power 4 and like 4th or 5th most in the country.
There's only 4 teams that have given up more than 19 sacks. Tennessee State, Arkansas State, Auburn, and Missouri State. So,
right. Yeah. And I think like the Auburn thing is at least partly like Jackson Arnold holds onto the ball forever. Luke Altmyer does kind of hold onto the ball. He holds on the ball a little bit. But it's more a function of just like they've gotten overwhelmed when they've played good defensive lines against Duke and against Indiana. And we think Ohio State has a good defensive line. And It's probably the best group that they faced so far. They're not as aggressive, like blitzing wise, as Indiana and Duke are, just sort of generally. But I could see Matt Patricia like increasing their blitz rate. They blitzed the most they've blitzed all year last week against Minnesota. I could see that carrying over because Illinois' offensive line does not handle it well, and even like Luke Altmyer, for a veteran guy, is fine against the blitz and fine against pressure, but like Julian Sayin, for instance, is like significally better against the blitz and against pressure than Luke Altmyer is. So
we will get to that. Yes.
Yeah. It's just not a drop back pass game. And like Illinois knows that. Illinois, like they're not going to try to win that way.
No, I think we've been talking about like Ohio State when they had 6 sacks against Washington, but not a lot of them were quick sacks. These could be quick sacks. Yes. They could make the Illinois offense non-functional. And that's just with Caden Curry doing his thing. That's with Arvell Reese doing his thing. But that's also, as you said, with Matt Patricia deciding this is an opportunity for us to be more aggressive. We don't have to rush 3, drop 8, and feel people out. Let's attack them. And I think they might attack them from the jump. And which is why I think Illinois, I don't know what they're going to do. I think it is, we really so this was like a couple years ago, they got J.C. Davis at left tackle and Melvin Priestley at right tackle in the portal. And it was like Brett Bielema really went and like got aggressive in the portal and solved 2 problems. And I thought they both played pretty decently at tackle last year. And it's like, man, they're both back. Here we go. And then it's like this offensive line, like they can't protect at all. Like it's stunning sometimes. And they got, Vinny Anthony is a guy at Duke, I guess that's a pretty good pass rushing prospect. Sure. He destroyed Illinois. We know Indiana has some guys like they destroyed them, but they're getting like destroyed. And then they've got to problem solve out of that. I just think if I were Illinois, I would assume the destruction. You don't have to see Caden Curry stick his shoulder in Luke Altmyer's gut 3 times. You don't have to see Arvell Reese split the gap and be on top of the quarterback before he even gets the shotgun snap. You just assume it's going to happen. So then what? So that's what makes me curious, because I just don't think they have a chance. I think they've been that bad on the offensive line, and Ohio State, even though it's not like their primary thing, I think they can do it when they choose to do it, and they will choose to do it. And I think they'll destroy Illinois if Illinois tries any kind of drop back passing game.
I agree with you. The other thing that showed up in what I was watching too is that there are certainly plenty of instances of offensive linemen just like losing their one-on-one against defensive linemen. But Illinois' offensive line also seems to like have no idea like how to diagnose things. Like if you're bringing a defensive back or you're bringing a linebacker from depth, like they don't see him, and that guy just runs free. Like Luke Altmyer in the USC game and the Purdue game got lit up by blitzing cornerbacks because like they came from the blind side, no one touched him, and he had no idea that guy was coming. So like I don't know, watch out for like a Davis and Igbinosun or Jermaine Matthews sack maybe in this game, because that seemed to show up a lot in watching Illinois.
And I know Bielema, after they got blitzed by Indiana, was saying, like, we've got to reevaluate. Are we asking them to do things they can't do? And then they did play better against USC. Yeah. So it was like, okay, maybe this is part of it and asking them to do are they asking them to do things that are too difficult? Or are they asking them to do things that are normal and they still just can't execute them? So they've got to get more basic, or they've got to max protect more and give more help. I don't know, but it did feel like a step forward a little bit against USC, but then I don't know that continued against Purdue.
I would say it did not. Yeah.
Yeah. So, real opportunity here. It's like kind of the number one thing of the game. And then the other interesting part of this is 63-10, and it's related to both sides of the ball. We'll get into the other side of it in a second. But for Illinois to get destroyed like that by Indiana, which is now 3 weeks ago, Ryan Day said, throw it out. That he said, we're not even really looking at it. He said, we're looking at their other games. We're looking at last year. We're looking at Bielema at Wisconsin, but they're almost not looking at that. When we get to the Illinois defense, there's some things we can talk about why I think it's maybe more applicable. But is that how you view it? Like almost ignore it? It was just the worst night that you could have? Or is part of it like, well, some of it was really bad, but it's like things that could continue to be bad for Illinois on Saturday?
I think offensively, yeah, it's things that can continue to be bad. And I understand where Ryan Day's coming from because he doesn't want to create the thought in his team's mind that Illinois stinks. So like we're good. We don't have to be on point with this, right? So
Yeah.
I think like of course they watched the game. Like they watched it. Trust me. I don't know if they watched it as a team, but the staff watched it. It's like one of like the staff watches it for the schematics, and then you don't show it to the team because you want them in the proper mindset.
Yeah.
But yeah, especially on this side of the ball, the defense, Ohio State's defense against Illinois' offense, it wasn't like Illinois was shorthanded in that game defensively, which I'm sure you'll talk about. Like they had their full boat on offense for the most part in that game, and they got overwhelmed by Indiana's defense.
Okay. All right, let's flip it. But before we do, let's remind you that you can find some really cool Ohio State gear at roback.com. RHOBACK. I'm looking at one right now. It's a black hoodie with a little red Buckeye leaf right here, like right kind of to high middle of your chest. It's just like really cool and subtle and kind of classy. And that's the kind of stuff that Roback can bring to your Ohio State collection. So we would encourage you, just if you've never tried that website, maybe just go check it out. Holidays will be here before you know it, like an opportunity for a good present. You can get out ahead of that. An opportunity for, man, if you think Ohio State's going to make another playoff run and you really want to have, like, you want to, be able to wear stuff to work or to school or out and about. I want like really cool gear because like, man, the Buckeyes might repeat for the first time ever. Roback.com had just a lot of cool stuff like that. I really like some of the quarter zips they have with the stripe across it. Go check it out and you'll get 20% off your first order if you put in the code BAD20. That's BAD20. 20% off your first order at roback.com. Illinois has no defensive playmakers in their back seven anymore. And there are just dudes running.
Yeah.
So Xavier Scott, their one of their safeties was, I think I voted him second in my preseason All Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year ballot behind Caleb Downs. That's how good I thought he was. And he's not playing. He's hurt. And he's a playmaker. He's their version of Caleb Downs. Is that like a decent comparison? We're not saying he is Caleb Downs, but he's their version of Caleb Downs.
Yeah, he had if you approach it from the right point of view, like he has the same impact on his defense, I think, that Caleb Downs has on Ohio State's. Yeah.
He kind of ties everything together. He's both like the glue and the playmaker, I think. And without him, you just watch. And so last week, they did not blitz Purdue very much. They blitzed Purdue 28% of the time. And we'll get into some of the other blitz percentages they've done, but they didn't blitz. And so they were playing a lot of that 3-man, 4-man rush, sit back in coverage and make you work down the field, right? It looked a little bit like what Ohio State tries to do. But then they missed tackles. They missed assignments. They took terrible angles. Miles Scott, who's another defensive back for them, is probably now their best defensive player, at least in the back seven. They had a play where they blitzed a corner, and Miles Scott is supposed to come up and then take that coverage. He ran straight at where the receiver was 2 seconds ago, and the guy ran right by him, and they hit him for a 60-yard touchdown. So first of all, it's a terrible play call. And then your best veteran guy takes a horrible angle and it's a free 60 yards. There were Purdue guys running everywhere. And it was just so stark, Landis, that it's a reminder about the Ohio State defense of just because you maybe are patient and try to make teams work down the field doesn't mean you're good at it. And there's a couple guys, there's a linebacker for them. I don't want to call guys out. He is a missed tackle machine. He misses tackles in the middle of the field. He's in the wrong gap. They scored on a long run. He went, I don't even know where he was going, but the result was there's a huge gap on the right side. They make one block and a guy's out of the house for 50 yards. And there's just fundamental breakdowns of guys in space that I think Ohio State offensively has a chance to kill them in the middle of the field, to kill them with some run game stuff. I don't know that this is an over the top kind of thing, but I think it is a crossing routes, RPO, break a tackle and you're gone kind of explosive potential game for Ohio State, because I was stunned by watching this Illinois defense let guys run free.
There's a lot of space. And They looked like I think I like their defensive coordinator, but like they seem like a pretty poorly
I don't
coached
anymore.
They seem like a pretty poorly coached defense.
Like Aaron Henry. So Aaron Henry took over for Ryan Walters a couple years ago. So this is Aaron Henry's third year. And we talked about this a lot in the offseason. It's like they've gotten a little bit better, but Illinois, if it wanted to be a playoff team, needed to make a jump to a top 25 defense, and they're not close. They're not close. And then, by the way, it's not their fault they lost their best defensive player. But this is not even about, as you said, like they had like 4 other defensive backs who were hurt in the Indiana game. They're playing third string guys. Those guys are back. Yeah. So they're healthy now, aside from missing Xavier Scott, which remains a huge loss. But even like Jaheim Clark in their secondary was out for the first 4 games. He was supposed to be their number 2 corner coming into the year. So he was also out against Indiana, but they knew he was out. Now as healthy as they can be in the secondary, and they were last week against Purdue, besides Xavier Scott. Okay. So they still like, right. They're playing, they have like 5 of their top 6 guys, 6 of their top 7 guys.
Yeah.
And they have their linebackers, and there's just not a guy. There's not a guy who's going to make a play. There's not a guy who's going to track you down. There's not a guy who's going to come up and I think deliver a blow. There's not a guy who's going to make a read and break on a ball and make a play. And this secondary had to get better. I don't think Aaron Henry and this defense have made a jump at all. And I think Ohio State and Julian Sayin has a chance to just like absolutely pick them apart.
I kind of think so too. It's just a matter of like what's that look like and how many possessions does Ohio State end up with. But I was looking at yards after the catch, and I wasn't able to like see where this ranks nationally because like the site I was using just isn't set up that way. But in the games against Power 4 competition, Illinois' defense on average is allowing almost 170 yards after the catch per game.
Unbelievable.
By comparison, Ohio State allows 65.
Yeah. Like talking about this, so like pass plays of 10 yards or more, Illinois allowed 62. Ohio State, now Illinois played 1 more game. So Illinois played 6 games, Ohio State played 5. But in 6 games, Illinois allowed 62. Ohio State's allowed 21 in 5 games. Yeah. Pass plays of 20 yards or more in 6 games, Illinois allowed 18. Ohio State's allowed 8. 4th down conversions, Illinois ranks 105th in the country defensively. They allowed offenses to convert 43.4% of their 3rd downs. USC was 8 of 14. Indiana was 8 of 11. Purdue was 5 of 13. Stop rate, which is like getting off the field, right? That you force a team to end a drive with either a 4th down stop, a punt, or a turnover. They are 75th in the country in stop rate. Right. So they don't get off the field on 3rd down. They don't get off the field in general. They've actually like they forced some turnovers that I think have like sort of kept them alive at times, but down to down, they just are not a good defense.
Yeah. Did you did you go back and watch any of the USC game? Like Mekhi Lemon destroyed them.
Yeah.
Like they had and like if you look at like the PFF, like 8 different guys tried to cover him and nothing worked.
So now can they get after the passer at all? Right. So they do have a decent number of sacks. They have 15 sacks, which is pretty good. But they've played 2 bad teams, and they have 8 sacks in 2 games versus the bad teams, and they have 7 sacks in 4 games versus the good teams. So I don't. And I think we just have to have a discussion about this Ohio State offensive line. As much as you're saying like, oh, the Illinois offensive line, A, they're losing one-on-one matchups, and B, they're not picking up where guys are coming from. Ohio State's offensive line doesn't lose one-on-one offensive matchups, and they do know where guys are coming from. Like, I don't think this Ohio State offensive line has just been so locked in and connected that Gabe Akis, right, is a pretty good pass rusher on the edge. He has 19 pressures. James Thompson is a guy from Wisconsin on the interior as a transfer that like got a lot of discussion in the offseason. He has 7 pressures. I don't know, but I don't like Gabe Akis, as good as he is. He's not going to destroy Phillip Daniels and Austin Saraville. Then they're not going to come up. We'll talk about blitzes in a second, but I just don't think this Illinois defense is prepared to handle this Ohio State offensive line.
No, it's an offensive line that's playing really well, that appears to be really well coached, connected, as you said. I don't think I've sensed a whole lot of instances where they appear to be confused by anything. It was funny, like hearing Austin Saraville talk last week going into the Minnesota game. Like he thought he played poorly against Texas, right? He didn't give up anything against Colin Simmons or any other Texas pass rushers, I don't think. But he said, like, yeah, my sets were awful. Like, my head was kind of spinning. I don't know how I got through the game without giving up a lot. But it's like, and I think maybe like the offensive line generally might have felt like that. Like, if you look, that's probably the worst game they played, and they still played pretty well in that game. And since then, they've just kind of been on it. Even last week, like Anthony Smith from Minnesota is going to be like a top 100 draft pick, and like they shut that dude down. So,
yep.
Could Gabe Bacchus have like a legacy game? Maybe, but if short of that, I don't know that there's much you look at in that matchup on the line of scrimmage that doesn't favor Ohio State with the way that it's played so far this year.
Yeah. So it's just really an uphill battle for Illinois. And then if they want to try to bring it, so they only blitzed against Purdue 28% of the time, USC 48%, Indiana 41%, Duke 58%. Okay. So you want to try to generate some pressure. Do you know which quarterback in the Power Four is best against the blitz, according to PFF?
Julian Sayin.
It is Julian Sayin. He has a 91.8 PFF rating against the blitz. He completes 79% of his passes, 8 touchdowns, 1 interception, 9.8 yards per attempt against the blitz. He is completely in control for a young guy in those situations, and I think you would invite it. So I want to have a discussion about this, actually. If you were a defensive coordinator, what would you try to do against Julian Sayin?
Honestly, like what everyone has tried to do, which is like make them work it down the field. Because like, I guess the one area where Julian Sayin has been like not quite as efficient as throwing the ball in the red zone. So like I would probably make him do that.
But also, like, I think that's probably right also, because you can't allow them to hit you with big plays. You can't play man and with big plays, and you can't, I think, sell out on the blitz because Sayin and the offensive line will handle it together. So he's been blitzed 33% of the time, which is not that much. Mm-hmm. So I think defensive coordinators know this, right? There are some guys like Steve Angeli at Syracuse is getting blitzed 58% of the time. Yeah. Right. Preston Stone at Northwestern is getting blitzed 49% of the time. Fernando Mendoza at Indiana is getting blitzed 47% of the time. John Mateer at Oklahoma is getting blitzed 46% of the time. CJ Carr at Notre Dame's getting blitzed 43.5% of the time as a young first-year quarterback. Bryce Underwood at Michigan is getting blitzed 42% of the time. I think people have figured this out. Well, you can't really blitz Julian Sayin. So you have to mix it in some, of course.
Sure.
But I don't think Illinois is going to be able to generate a pass rush without blitzing. And then I don't think they're going to be able to cover. I'm not sure how Illinois stops Ohio State.
Like a bad combination. Yeah, I think, I guess Julian Sayin's not been hit a lot. Like he took that shot last week against Minnesota and completed a great pass to Max Clare. He got hit against Ohio and gave the ball away, right? Like, I think you blitz to see if you can hit him, and then how does he play after actually getting hit a few times? Even if you're not sacking him, if you're getting physical with him, does that change his demeanor at all? My guess would be probably not, but it's like a box, I guess, that he hasn't checked yet that you'd want to try to see if he can if you're Illinois.
So I do think this is a game where I kind of expect Ohio State to throw it a decent amount, but I do think it's efficient move down the field. They'll not give up the deep shots, but Sayin and then Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, Max Clare, maybe Brandon Ennis, they'll just kind of have their way on intermediate routes, on the RPO game, on breaking tackles and making big plays. I think it's a yards after the catch game. I don't think it's an over-the-top game, but I think Illinois – I think their only choice, as you said, maybe any defense's only choice is to make Ohio State consistently move the ball down the field. And then I think Ohio State's passing game will do just that.
Red zone roulette. See whether or not you can win. Max Clare, by the way, career high in receiving yards last year against Illinois when he was at Purdue, 133 on 6 catches.
And then Ohio State run game, right? I mean, it's just like if CJ Donaldson is morphing a little bit into the short down back, and so it's Bo Jackson and then a little bit of James Peoples. Like I think Ohio State fans, I think everybody kind of has a handle on the Ohio State run game now, and it's I think pretty darn reliable and probably will get better as Bo Jackson, as a true freshman, continues to get more accustomed to playing college ball.
Yeah, I think. And I think I saw Ross Fulton talking about this at Buckeye Huddle. Like, there's still some stuff about people people wanted to see like more consistent explosive plays from Ohio State's run game. And I think it's just a good reminder that like when you run an RPO and you throw the ball and then Carnell Tate takes a slant 45 yards, that's kind of an explosive run play. Like, so they're calling runs that turn into passes that still end up being explosive. But, we saw the big hits from Bo Jackson in those games against Grambling and Ohio. Maybe you want to see him get a little loose here in this game too. I think there'll be opportunities too, because as you mentioned, Illinois is a bad tackling team.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else we need to bring up before we dive into our picks here?
Just looking at my notes. Nope. I think we covered everything.
Okay. All right. As we said, it's a 14-point spread, 49.5 for the total. What is your score, Bill Landis?
Ohio State 35, Illinois 10.
I'm 35-9.
3 field goals. Or a field goal and a safety, or a touchdown and a safety.
Or like Bielema goes for 2 after they score their 1 touchdown because like he's trying, you know what I mean? I don't know.
Oh yeah,
something
I
goofy.
Yes, I can see that.
Just bang the extra point off the upright. I think 49.5 is a pretty high total. So like this is not a gambling show, but I will sprinkle probably $2 on the under here.
I did as well. I just don't think. I guess there's like I thought USC, and like it had to because it was like a back and forth game. Then it was down. Started playing with more tempo in a way that seemed pretty effective against Illinois' defense. But I just don't know that Ohio State's going to feel the need to do that, which is to say they'll probably continue to just play slow. So I could even see like whatever 28-3 or 28-7, something like that. Like maybe Ohio State has the ball 7 times in this game, but I just don't know unless there could be big plays, right? There could be 2-play scoring drives for Ohio State with some of what we're seeing from Illinois' defense, and if that happens, then the number gets high. But I do think it'll be a more methodical, lower possession game.
And Hank Beatty's that for Illinois too. Like there are three receivers in this game who have a chance to go to the house every time they touch the ball. Yep. And Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, and Hank Beatty. So like I do think you also have to factor that in as part of it. But I think game plan, I think game script, I think what Brett Bielema is going to try to do to junk this up, I think that lends itself to, and again, like to me, so we both have 35 for Ohio State. So I think that's 5 touchdowns on maybe 7 possessions for the first team offense.
Yeah, I think so.
And then you throw in like maybe 1 time where you go for it from midfield on 4th and 4 and don't get it. And you throw in 1 punt and then the other 5 are touchdowns. And like, that's your game.
I'm looking to see the first team offense last week against Minnesota had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 possessions.
Okay. And scored what? 6 touchdowns?
The starter scored 5 touchdowns.
5. Backup scored 1. Okay. So I think that's what we're talking about. And so we're pretty comfortable with giving the 14 with Ohio State. We're pretty comfortable with the under. You know, if Bielema is supremely successful in junking it up, I mean, could Illinois keep it within 14? You know, if it's more like 27-14 or something somehow, I don't know. That's not where we think it is. But I just don't. This is just it's interesting. This is what Ryan Day. He said the word efficiency 1 million times on Tuesday, right? And trying to talk about that. And I think fans are understanding this. It's not really about points. It's not really about number of plays. It's the efficiency within whatever you're doing. And I was doing some research on we did a Substack subscriber. If you want to go check out our Substack at billanddougosu.substack.com. I was doing a little research comparing this Ohio State offense with the first-time offensive coordinator in Brian Hartline to 2012 when Tom Herman was the offensive coordinator for not his first time, but his first year at Ohio State, and Ryan Day in 2017, his first year at Ohio State. Plays per game, 2012, they averaged 70 plays per game. 2017, they averaged 75 plays per game. This year, they're averaging 61 plays per game. But yards per play in 2012, they averaged 6 yards per play. 2017, 7.5. This year, 7.45. So you look at like yards per game in 20, and this is all for the first 5 games. So I was just looking at the first 5 games of the season. You look at 2017, Ryan Day's first year as the offense coordinator, 565 yards per game in the first 5 games. This year, it's 451 yards per game in the first 5 games, but the yards per play is the same.
Right.
So, like, that's what they think about. And I think this has a chance to be a supremely efficient game from the Ohio State offense that I think will make Brian Hartline and Ryan Day very happy.
Yeah. Oh, one other thing. I agree with everything you said. Sometimes the weather gets weird in Champaign. It looks normal. It looks normal.
Okay.
Right
wind,
now, so.
wind, swirling wind in that place. Yeah.
I think it's supposed to be like 70 and sunny and calm
Beautiful.
winds. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll have a post-game show right after it on Saturday. So you can join us live on YouTube for that. We will have a national pick show on Friday where we'll cover a bunch of Big Ten games that matter, couple Southern games that matter. And then we continue to have our coverage on Substack, which will include our Sunday Sound Off, where we take questions and comments from our subscribers and do another pod, another show on Sunday morning. So you're good? You're good?
I'm good. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Ready.
That's it for our big game breakdown of the Illinois Fighting Illini and the Ohio State Buckeyes. Thanks to you guys for joining us. For now, he's Bill Landis. I'm Doug Lesmerises, and that was the Bill and Doug Show.